Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of the choir, I'm Josh.
Hi, I'm Abby, in case you forgot.
No one can forget you, Abby. You're like, she's like the face of That's So Us. Woo! You guys ready for a video? I'm ready for a video.
I'm ready for a video.
Deep, in-depth conversations
About
by self. Dun 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 dun.
awareness.
Yeah, so we've made videos about this kind of stuff. Like she said, awareness, self, perception, all of it. And, I figured we could dive into this a little bit more. I'm going to put a video out that we got some of this resource from, none other than Mr. Alan Watts. His video is like an hour long. We're not going to do an hour long video. It's okay.
No.
Sorry. But I hope that we can put it into words that's easier for you to grasp, or at least try, because this is a harder segment to put into words.
Took a little bit.
So we're going to start with trying to identify the term self. You think, who are you? What is self? Well, I am me. Okay, good job.
You did it.
But we're getting real deep on it. And so the Sanskrit terminology, Atman, directly translates into the vastest possibilities in sense. Yourself, the totality of all being. The totality.
All of it.
And so don't take that term lightly. The totality. I mean, let me put it in perspective for you. When we talk about the vastness of the universe, the vastness in the microscopic fundamentals of the human body or anything, it's so vast. It's infinite.
It's crazy.
For all we know. And it can even be multidimensional, meaning multiple of universes. So vast. When I mean vast.
So there could be like universes going on in my body.
Sure. Who knows? It could be a universe in your fingernail. We could be a universe in someone's fingernail.
Hey.
So to think how big and how small we are, how vast everything is. When this Hindu culture says Atman, they're identifying yourself, the self, as the totality of all being. It means all of the microscopic things, all of the other creatures that we don't know exist yet, all of it.
All of it.
Wow. All of it. We are all one in the same place in a different environment. We are all one self manifested into our own versions of that self.
Different versions of ourselves grown up in different environments, raised different ways. But we're all the same, placed in different parts. Everything is up here, and then we're like branched down into all kinds of different humans and
an infinite amount
and everything.
An infinite amount. Every self is molded on and is an expression of the one self, because you all feel like you are the center of the world and everything else is seen in circles, circling out from where you are. Of course.
Why shouldn't you?
Well, yeah. What you see, you're in the center. You turn around one side, turn around the other side, you're in the center.
This is your life.
We are our own reality, being perception that is reality. In our own reality, we are the center of our own universe. Mm-hmm. But everyone has their own center of their own universe. Everyone has their own reality. Everyone has their own perception. And there are an infinite amount of perceptions. Yeah? There is an infinite amount of realities. And you could experience an unimaginable amount in your lifetime. The way you feel that day, the way you're perceiving life in that day is your reality for that day. Mm-hmm. Me personally, my perception will shift 3 or 4 times a day sometimes. My reality will shift 3 or 4 times a day at some point or another. So think of that when you're identifying oneself and the vastness of it. think about that when you are, if that is true, if you are all in the self, you know? So when you see someone else down the road and maybe you got a little bit of road rage going on, well, you don't know what they're going through. And people have said that so many different times. Their reality could be completely shifted differently than yours.
They have their whole other world. You know, they're just driving and then they see this a-hole behind you driving real fast. You're just like, what is this guy doing? But his life, he's having a bad day. Like, you don't know what's going on. And it's cool to keep that perception and being able to understand what what's going on in other realities that are around you all the time.
The circle whose center is everywhere, but the circumference is nowhere.
I love that.
I mean, that really kind of describes the vastness of it, if you think about it. And you are the center of your own universe. I am the center of my own universe.
And there's no end to your center.
There's no beginning and there's no end.
There's just a center.
Yeah. And that's how we've been built up. And that's how we are being built up. And I think Abby's going to add some dimensional perspective to you here.
Yeah. So if you magnify the cells in your body and the molecules, or get it down to the molecular structure, and take those into scale with the sun and the planets, it could be that small. And it's really cool.
Then shift it, it could be that big.
Yeah, and there could be vast amount of universe versus full of other living creatures, full of empires, full of battleships. And that could all be going on in this little molecule.
Grain of sand.
Tiny little thing under your fingernail. Back to the fingernail thing. You have universes in your fingernail. In your hair. Like, that's just so cool. And so it is important to understand not only the reality of size and time, but also what there is.
It really kind of demonstrates the importance of.
And then that brings you to the question, well, sort of answer, I don't know. Where is the universe? Where are we? And you can't really say, because everything has to be in relation to something else to fully really understand where it's at. The universe, there would have to be another universe to be able to understand where you are, and even if you did have another universe to compare it to, you still wouldn't know where those universes are around it.
In relation to.
Yeah.
In the standpoint of logic, we can't say anything about everything. I'll say it again. We cannot say anything about everything. Trying to describe everything, there's not really a logical sense, and this is, at our best, trying to describe everything, the vastness of it. When it comes to what fundamentally is, there's no real logical explanation other than simply what is. What is self? I'm self, but it's also everyone else. It's hard to describe that, you know? The notion of the self as a fundamental reality is then essentially meaningless. At the same time, just because something cannot be put into words logically does not mean it isn't real.
People don't like to believe in things that don't have answers. Questions that can't be answered.
So what if these complex questions just have simple answers? And to try to go deeper is just meaningless. Maybe that's the meaningless part of finding the fundamental reality of self.
Maybe we're just not supposed to know the answers to things.
Maybe we can't comprehend it. Not in these lenses.
Right. It's not our ability.
So if you shift said lenses, say all of a sudden you're able to see heat coming off of people. See vibrations, see energy. Do you think that all of those are there? You just can't see it with our naked eye.
If you put on some heat goggles, you could see it.
So all of these things are happening that we can't even see. nor comprehend, really. We can get down in the science behind it, but in reality, vibration, everything gives off vibration, everything gives off energy, everything has energy. And we don't see it, not in the naked eye. So if those lenses were to be shifted, then your perceptual view will be shifted. And it kind of makes a little more sense logically. There is consciousness that is highly responsive. The consciousness, I've said this before, I will say it again. The consciousness is so much stronger than we give it credit for. And in this one instance, that there is consciousness that is highly responsive, yet we don't constantly notice them. Breathing, your heart pumping blood through your veins, digesting food,
your hair growing,
all of it. And you're doing it, and you don't even know how it's done. You can talk about it scientifically. But so in just that way, your consciousness attention is not aware of the connection or identity of the fundamental self or fundamental other. Your connection with yourself, your connection with other, how beautifully woven it is all put together. So if we don't consciously think about breathing, pumping blood, growing hair, what if we don't consciously think about the constant connection that we have to the self? And how we're all connected, and how we've said this before in previous videos, that we are all connected. And what if that connection is just as subconscious as breathing? You know, have you ever met someone and you've never met them before in your life, but you feel like you've known them forever? That's what I'm talking about. And I think that's exactly what that is. You are connected to them. You've been connected to them before you met them.
Because you are all the same.
Yes.
You're all tied together.
And then it makes you question, how do you not notice it and put it into logical terms? Well, how really do you notice the self? How does the self notice the self? That's tricky. It's kind of like trying to say, how does a knife cut itself? How does fire burn itself? How does water quench itself?
It doesn't.
It doesn't. So finding logical explanation for the self is rather difficult, because the self talking about itself. You know? Food for thought. Let you digest
Kind of tangles
that.
up a little bit in your head, but...
Yeah. Exactly.
Thinking of relating the self to a diaphragm of a speaker, they have similar relationships. No one sees the diaphragm of the speaker, just like no one sees the self. You can't see the self. That's in...
It's blasphemy.
Blasphemy. Yet the one thing that is really creating the sound is the diaphragm of the speaker. It's creating the vibrations that you're hearing.
It's the constant variable.
People can then ask, what is this music on? What basis do we have to reference such music and its relations to the diaphragm? Then I can counter ask the question, what are you? What are you on?
What are you on? What basis do we have on to understand you for thine self? Constant variable in that scenario is the self. What basis do we have to reference such music? The diaphragm. Or in its relation to the diaphragm, well, if you try to find the basis off of that, it has different variables, just like it has different variables on what I'm on. What makes me me? It's all on the self. Like saying, you know, if you're going to take the bill for dinner, it's on me. It's on me. I got this one. It's on me. It's the same thing. It's all on the self. It's the constant variable. Just like the diaphragm is a constant variable of the output of sound. We are the constant variable of the output of self. Each and every one of us. The self in each one of you is at root as one. Now, we get the misconception that we are very independent people to people. We're nothing more than the flesh and bone inside our skin. A lot of people think that because we don't have roots like trees. We're not attached to each other with umbilical cords. But in a consciousness state, and I think that our generation is starting to really see that mindset and consciousness goes far, far deeper than we originally thought. And even though that we don't have connection physically. We have constant connection spiritually, mentally, through consciousness in itself. And what a beautiful way to view that.
It is so beautiful.
Meaning you're not alone. Ever. If you really think about it. Perception, I mean, it's hard to grasp. Think of it as playing a piano. Think of how you're going to perceive the day as playing the piano. First of all, if you decide I'm going to learn to play the piano, you're not going to know Mozart's 12th in an hour. I'd be very, very impressed if you did.
You have to start out small, learning the keys, playing Old MacDonald on a farm.
In the same sense, you're not going to understand perception or how you perceive it without really understanding perception in self in the first place.
So whenever you're going about this to play the piano, you don't just start pounding on the keys.
You pick the keys you want to play.
You pick the keys you want to play.
It is picking out certain things of significance and constructing patterns, just like you choosing your perceptional view of the day. You're going to pick out what you want for that day, and that's your reality for the day. And it might be different the next day.
It might change within the day.
Yeah. The universe seems to be a process of playing with different patterns, and that's exactly what it is. Patterns. It's like piano. So you want to learn your Mozart 12th? Takes patterns, it takes learning, it takes practice, and it takes perception.
It takes starting small and working your way up.
You said it.
So, in the Indian philosophy, it is possible to become aware of oneself in the deepest sense, to know that you are the totality.
What an uplifting feeling to be.
Right?
I am the totality?
I can get to where I really believe that. Yeah. So, this has no beginning and no end. It is beyond all categorization whatsoever. When you are trying to know the self, you have to get rid of everything in your head. You have to let go of all the stuff that you're holding on to. And let it go. You have to be empty. And then when you come out of this realization, because that's where you'll get the enlightenment, or absorption, and come back into the world, you can see as clearly can be. And that is the self. You can become aware of the connectiveness of everything that is everything. And that's pretty cool.
It makes me cry when I do it.
When everything goes together. So everything does go together. You have tops to bottoms, fronts to backs. You have objects and spaces.
Your nights and days. Everything has its opposite.
Everyone has the yin and the yang.
It makes no difference whether it lasts a long time or a short time because time is completely relevant. It's all a point of view or level of magnification. So to tie it all perfectly together, it all takes patterns. It all takes magnifications, and it all ties into perception. So what we're trying to put out here is, first of all, perception takes many, countless, infinity amounts of views, which directly ties into your own reality. And to shift your perception of self to understand that you are the totality of all beings. Wow. And that you can simply be connected with everyone else without even having cognitive effort towards it. It's just there.
That's pretty cool.
And so in the previous videos, if you haven't watched them, I always recommend. We talked about awareness. We identified awareness. We identified perception. We identified self as much as we could. I think we did more in this video than the others. But tying all of that together, it's almost like if it's real, and it is, but if it is, you almost want to parade the streets telling everybody, oh my God, this life
that you can have,
that you do have, you are it. You are the life.
It is you.
You're not living life. You are life. You're here. And you know, what blows my mind is, first of all, the rarity of life in general. You know, if your dad didn't meet your mom, would you still be here?
And someone would be here.
Would it be you?
Right.
How do you know? The point is that, first of all, you have such a high fraction, or low fraction, 1 in what million, I don't know, to be born, to be conceived. And then you're on this earth. You're like, well, what the heck do I do now? I mean, but it's the way you view it. It's the way you perceive it. To identify, first of all, if life's a gift, I don't know the answer to that yet. Or is it
There's
something
definitely
that you
challenges.
Is it something you're in it for the ride? But if we are in it for the ride, and that's what it is, just to simply experience, why not try to find out as much as you can about this experience so that you can experience the experience to its highest potential? To experience the depths of connections with other souls. To experience just what you yourself is capable of and how that capability can then influence everybody.
It's so beautiful.
And we turn it around and call it life. I think that's all I got. I don't know. What do you got? You empty?
I'm empty. That was good.
Guys, you sat through 21 and a half minutes of our video. Please give feedback, good or bad. If you liked it, like it. Share it to everyone.
If you didn't like it, don't like it. And tell us what you think. Yeah, tell us why.
Love feedback, absolutely. If there's anything you want us to talk about, let us know. And that makes me want to fist bump Abby. Boom. And y'all have a great rest of your evening.